I want a divorce. I found someone who actually makes me happy. That was the message that popped up on my phone at exactly 9:12 a.m. while I was sitting at my workstation at Langston Financial Systems in Raleigh, North Carolina. My name is Aaron Miller, I'm 46 years old. And I've spent over 2 decades designing and managing fraud detection systems for banks and private firms. That Wednesday morning had started like any other, coffee in hand. Reviewing risk flags for a client's asset transfers, until my wife destroyed everything with 12 words. Jenna was supposed to be at a marketing leadership summit in Denver. She'd said it was routine, just 3 days away for networking and client strategy. But that message said otherwise. A few seconds later, another text came in. I've already moved the retirement funds into a personal account. You can keep the house, I won't need it. I froze. The words didn't even feel real. I set my coffee down, opened my banking app, and pulled up the dashboard I'd custom built for our family finances. I wasn't just a numbers guy, I was the guy who wrote the code that caught other people trying to do what Jenna just did. To Jenna, it probably felt like a clean break, text, transfer, done. But what she didn't know was that every joint account we had was tied into an internal system I designed to monitor financial anomalies across households. It wasn't about suspicion. It was habit. Precision. Prevention. I didn't text back some dramatic plea or angry tirade. Just 7 words. I hope you're happy. That's all. Then I watched as the back end lit up. Our shared savings. The 401k, Roth IRAs, emergency fund, all flagged. The system didn't care that we were married. It only saw unauthorized movement of 6-figure sums without 2-party verification. Which meant the freeze protocols had already kicked in. And Jenna? She had no idea her betrayal had tripped a system I'd designed to protect us, from people just like her. While Jenna probably imagined I was scrambling in confusion, I simply minimized the message thread and opened the back-end logs of my system. Every financial move she made was being tracked in real time. It wasn't invasive, it was infrastructure. I'd built it after watching one of our clients lose $2.3 million due to internal theft disguised as spousal transfers. At 9:28 a.m., the first alert came in, unauthorized retirement withdrawal flagged. By 9:31, a second emergency fund triggered threshold breach. Within the hour, all movement from our connected accounts had been suspended pending verification, thanks to the federal compliance layers integrated into my system. When large sums are moved without mutual approval, particularly from retirement accounts, the system automatically engages review protocols. By noon, I received a notification from our investment firm's fraud division. Deposits into Jenna's new personal account were frozen. Transfers locked. Review initiated. They weren't even contacting her. They were contacting me, as the registered co-holder and system administrator. And I didn't feel joy. Not even relief. Just a numb kind of validation. I'd spent years creating these tools to protect others. Turns out, they were protecting me now. Back at my desk, I watched as Jenna's transactions flatlined. No confirmation notices. No fund clearances. No access. She was about to discover that betrayal is a poor strategy when your husband built the walls around the money. I didn't bother calling her. There was nothing to say. She had made her move, fast, ruthless, clean on the surface. But she'd miscalculated the one thing that mattered. I never missed details. Jenna thought she was ahead of me. What she didn't know was that the moment she tried to vanish with our financial future, she'd alerted a system that doesn't care about emotions. It only cares about rules, logic, and traceable transactions. She wasn't just up against a husband now. She was up against a machine. We'd been married for 23 years. High school sweethearts from a small town outside Winston-Salem. I was the math nerd, always calculating probabilities, optimizing baseball stats, tracking every fundraiser dollar to the penny. Jenna was the outgoing one, class president, prom queen, future marketing executive. We were opposites, and for a long time, we worked. She used to laugh at how obsessively I checked our tax returns. "You're too paranoid with money," she'd tease. And I'd always answer, "Someone has to be." That was our dynamic. I guarded the numbers, she built our social circle and career connections. She was brilliant with people. I was brilliant with systems. But something had shifted. The signs were subtle at first, so quiet I told myself they were nothing. About 6 months ago, she stopped asking about our retirement projections. That had always been a shared obsession. Where we'd be in 10 years. Whether we could retire early and travel. Then, 3 months back, she opened a new credit card without even mentioning it. When I noticed it on our consolidated report, she brushed it off. "It's just for work points," she'd said. 2 weeks before the divorce text. She casually remarked over dinner that our guest room felt cluttered. Said no one really visited anymore. But it wasn't just the room she was clearing out. She was preparing her exit. On Thanksgiving, my sister pointed it out. "Jenna seems off. Distant," she said. "You okay?" I chalked it up to work stress. Jenna had been traveling more, seminars in Atlanta, retreats in Chicago. Always networking for her job at Marquette and Allen Marketing. I didn't question it. I trusted her. But looking back, she'd been gathering intel. Studying how our system worked. Trying to understand if there were any blind spots. What she never understood was that the system wasn't just built to catch strangers. It was designed to catch anyone. Even her. The night before she left for the conference in Denver, Jenna had been unusually interested in our finances. We were having pasta at the dining table when she leaned over her glass of wine and asked, "Roughly how much do we have in retirement now?" I didn't think much of it at the time. "About $820. 000 between the 401(k)s, Roths, and investments," I answered. "Why?" She smiled and shrugged. "Just curious. It's nice to know we're set." It wasn't the question that struck me, it was how casual she made it seem. In hindsight, that was the last quiet test she ran before executing her plan. She wanted confirmation. She wanted to know what she was walking away with. What she didn't realize was that every dollar she touched was protected by layers of oversight, every account linked, every transaction monitored. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I trusted systems more than I trusted luck. That Tuesday night, I'd stayed up finalizing a client report. Jenna kissed me on the cheek and said, "Try to get some sleep, okay? You're always working too hard." Then she rolled her carry-on to the door, headed off into the night. I didn't know it then, but she wasn't going to Denver. The flight she booked was just a decoy. She'd coordinated her moves with someone else, someone who thought they understood money well enough to hide it. But they underestimated me. I hadn't built that tracking system on instinct. I'd built it after watching a trusted business partner embezzle nearly $500,000 from a firm I was consulting for years ago. It broke that company. I swore I'd never let something like that happen on my watch again. So when Jenna made her move, I didn't panic. I simply opened the dashboard. And watched her betray me in real time. By Thursday morning, I'd already spoken with 2 legal teams. I wasn't wasting time on emotional spirals or angry rants, I went straight to protection mode. I contacted William Hart, a seasoned divorce attorney in Raleigh. Known for his experience in financial misconduct cases. After one look at the flagged reports, William's advice was blunt and clear. File now. Don't wait. Document everything. So that's what I did. By mid-morning, I had gathered every relevant document, account logs, flagged transactions, authentication records. My system didn't just record events. It time-stamped them, preserved IP addresses. Even flagged device locations. I had an airtight digital trail of everything Jenna had tried to do. I filed for divorce Friday morning. No requests for alimony. No petition for half the assets. Just the facts: attempted unauthorized transfers, breach of joint account agreements, and system-logged fraud indicators. The house was in my name, it always had been. Purchased 5 years ago during a down market. I didn't even have to argue for it. As for the joint checking account, I hadn't touched it since this started. It held around $3,200. Mostly used for day-to-day expenses. I let it sit. That was Jenna's consolation prize if she wanted it. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't out to humiliate her. I just wanted the truth secured and the damage contained. She had gambled on my emotional hesitation. But I wasn't that kind of man. That weekend, I cleaned the house, not out of spite. But practicality. I cleared out the guest room Jenna had always complained about. Donated old books she'd stacked in the corner. Boxed up the framed photos. One by one. The life I thought we had ended with a single text message. But the systems I built. They were still working. And they were working for me now. Sunday night, my phone rang 17 times. All from Jenna. I didn't answer until the 18th call. Her voice came through the line, strained and sharp, like it always did when a presentation went sideways. "Aaron, my card's not working. It says my balance is 0. Did you check your bank app?" I asked calmly. "I did. It's gone. All of it. I transferred it." "What did you do?" I didn't lie. I didn't even gloat. I simply stated the truth. The fraud detection system flagged the transfers from our retirement accounts. Federal regulations require a full review for any large withdrawals that don't have joint authorization. There was silence on the other end. Then finally, "How long?" 5 to 7 business days. Maybe longer if issues are found. She hung up. I stared at the screen a moment longer, then turned it face down and returned to my notes for work. That call wasn't about reconciliation or regret, it was panic. Jenna had made a high-stakes play and lost before the game even started. By Monday morning, I began noticing additional alerts. She was trying to apply for new credit cards, 3, in fact, all using our shared address. Each application was automatically declined due to the ongoing fraud investigation linked to her name. She was trapped. No access to our savings. No credit. No fallback. Then came the real curveball. Alan Decker, Jenna's boss at Marquette and Allen, called me personally. "Aaron," he said. "We're doing a headcount check from last week's Denver conference. Was Jenna actually there?" I paused. Then answered honestly. "You'd have to ask her." There was a beat of silence. Then. "We've seen some unusual activity in her expense reports. This might be bigger than just a no-show." I felt the first real knot in my stomach. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It might be something criminal. That Monday afternoon, I received an unexpected email from Eastern Financial Compliance, a regional fraud investigation unit I'd collaborated with in the past. The subject line was chillingly direct. "Request for review, suspicious transfer activity linked to Jenna Miller." Attached were flagged transactions, multiple transfers from corporate accounts into personal ones, all originating from the same workstation. Same IP address. Same user login. Jenna's. It wasn't just about our retirement anymore. Jenna had been siphoning funds from her employer, quietly and consistently, for months, maybe longer. My gut dropped. This wasn't a one-time betrayal fueled by emotion. It was an orchestrated pattern of theft. That evening, Gregory James, a lead investigator, arrived at my office. I recognized him immediately. We'd worked on a bank fraud case years earlier. "Aaron," he said. "We believe your personal financial monitoring system may have flagged patterns our internal audit missed. We're tracking what appears to be a coordinated embezzlement scheme involving your wife and at least one other executive at Marquette and Allen." I didn't want to believe it. But deep down, I already knew. They showed me preliminary numbers, nearly $2 million in unauthorized budget transfers spread over 18 months. Corporate marketing funds rerouted into layered personal accounts. It was sophisticated, masked by expense reports, vendor aliases, and fake invoice trails. One name stood out: Thomas Weller, Jenna's longtime colleague. They'd presented together at conferences. Traveled frequently, always seemed close. Now, he was a suspect. The betrayal hit on multiple levels. As a husband. As a financial professional. As someone who built systems to prevent exactly this. "I need documentation," Gregory said. "Anything you can provide that proves your system was acting independently of you." "I have it," I told him. "Every log. Every alert. Every rule I ever wrote." I handed over the digital keys to the evidence. It wasn't revenge. It was integrity. Because when you live by numbers, you let them speak for you, even when the truth destroys everything you thought you knew. By Wednesday morning, the investigation had expanded beyond Jenna and Thomas. More names were surfacing: other employees at Marquette and Allen who'd signed off on inflated budgets, shady vendor contracts, or untraceable expense reports. The fraud unit was unraveling an entire internal network of misuse. But then, another twist hit, this one far closer to home. I got a call from James Everett, the real estate agent who'd helped us buy our house 5 years earlier. "Aaron," he said, "I got a strange inquiry about your property. Someone claimed to be representing you and Jenna. Said you were interested in selling, quick cash sale. Pre-approved buyer already lined up." I blinked. "What was the offer?" $300,000. "Same price you paid when you bought it." "But that house is worth close to $500 now." "Who made the offer?" Name listed was Thomas Weller. That was the moment it all clicked. They weren't just stealing money. They were engineering an exit strategy. The plan had been to liquidate our retirement accounts, fake a home sale at the original purchase price, and flip it on the back end for profit. The buyer was a shell. The goal: pocket the $200,000 difference. Disappear with clean accounts and no paper trail. I felt sick. I wasn't just collateral in Jenna's scheme, I was the mark. That afternoon, I met with Detective Sarah Lindstrom from the Richmond Financial Crimes Unit. She confirmed what I now suspected: this wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger property fraud operation. "We've identified 12 victims so far," she said, "all employees or spouses of Marquette and Allen. But your case has the cleanest evidence trail." I thought about those other families. People like me who trusted. Who followed the rules. Who never thought their spouse might weaponize that trust. And I realized, what I'd built to protect our finances wasn't just stopping theft. It was exposing an entire criminal network. By Thursday, Jenna's attorney, someone new, likely appointed in a panic, filed for an emergency hearing, demanding immediate access to frozen funds for basic living expenses. The motion painted me as some controlling tech wizard who weaponized his expertise to trap his wife. William, my lawyer, laughed when he read it. "Bold move," he said. "Considering your fraud detection system runs on automated protocols monitored by third-party institutions. You never touched her accounts manually." The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. Jenna showed up in person, for the first time since all of this began. She looked thinner, pale, her usually sharp presence dulled. As we waited outside the courtroom, she approached me. "Why?" she whispered. "Why didn't you just let it go?" I stared at her, trying to find a trace of the woman I thought I'd known for over 2 decades. "Why?" I repeated. "You mean, why did the system work? Or why did I notice? Or maybe, why did you try to take everything?" She didn't answer. Inside, the judge reviewed the evidence quietly, flagged transactions, timestamps, institution-level freezes. And the complete absence of manual interference from me. William laid it out clearly, no emotion, just procedure. Jenna's lawyer tried to frame it as financial abuse. But the paper trail was undeniable. After 20 minutes, the ruling came. The joint checking account contains sufficient funds for temporary expenses. Motion for access to additional assets is denied pending full investigation. Jenna walked out with nothing but access to the same $3,000 that had been sitting untouched for weeks. Her trap hadn't just failed. It had closed around her. That weekend, I received a visit from Gregory James at Eastern Financial Compliance. "Aaron," he said. "We've confirmed corporate embezzlement involving multiple employees. Your wife is a key figure, and will need your continued cooperation." I nodded. "You'll have it." Because this wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. This was about justice, rooted in facts, backed by systems, and carried forward by truth. On Monday, I handed over every last piece of documentation, system logs, flagged transactions, tax filings, access records, to the U.S. Attorney's Office. What began as a personal betrayal had evolved into a federal investigation, and my system had become the cornerstone of their case. That evening, I received a text from Jenna. "They're saying it's federal charges. They think I took millions." I didn't respond. What could I possibly say to that? Tuesday brought another twist. James Everett, my realtor friend, called again. "Aaron, you're not going to believe this. Someone tried to list your house again. Same tactic, pre-approved buyer, $300,000 flat offer." I traced it, Thomas Weller. They weren't giving up. Even with accounts frozen, with investigations underway, Thomas was still pushing their exit plan. But what they hadn't expected was how quickly and cleanly the system kept adapting, flagging each move as it happened. Later that day, Detective Sarah Lindstrom confirmed it. "They've done this to at least 12 other families. All victims connected to your wife's company. It's a property fraud scheme built on insider access and artificial market pressure." Jenna and Thomas hadn't just drained money. They had created fake buyers, forced sales below market value, and flipped homes for profit, all hidden behind company funds and conference trips. It was coordinated, calculated, and collapsing. By Thursday, Patricia Gordon, Jenna's new lawyer, called my attorney. "Your client needs to prepare. We're expecting indictments. Multiple counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy, corporate theft, and possibly RICO if we confirm the full network." William leaned back in his chair, reviewing the growing file. "Your wife's not just looking at a divorce," he said. "She's looking at federal prison." That evening, I sat at my desk and reread the original alert. The one that started everything. A flagged transaction. $312. $500 withdrawn from our retirement account. Time-stamped. Verified. Suspicious. Not by emotion. Not by revenge. By math. The numbers had told the truth long before anyone else did. Friday morning. The courtroom was quiet, tense. The divorce hearing resumed under unusual circumstances. Jenna was now incarcerated, held without bond due to flight risk and pending federal charges. Her new public defender approached William and me before the session began. "She's willing to concede all marital property," he said. "House, retirement accounts, everything. In exchange. She asks for character testimony from you, something that might help reduce her sentencing. William looked at me. Entirely your choice. I considered it. 23 years of shared life. Now reduced to legal terms and frozen assets. She wanted me to help soften the blow of her conviction by vouching for who she used to be. I'll testify to what I observed, I replied. Nothing more. The hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the uncontested asset division and approved the divorce terms. The house remained mine. The retirement accounts were restored. Modest alimony was requested, and denied. Jenna's sentence would make it irrelevant. That night, a letter arrived. Handwritten. From jail. Aaron, I never meant for it to go this far. Thomas said your systems could be worked around. I believed him over you. I'm sorry. I got lost in the numbers, chasing control. You always saw the details. I should have known you'd see through me too. I read it once. Then slid it into a file folder labeled, Evidence, Admission of Guilt. It wasn't closure. It wasn't an apology I could accept. It was simply more data, another entry in a story already defined by digital trails and ethical failure. 2 weeks later, the federal trial began. I testified twice. Once about the financial systems I'd built, the automated alerts, the pattern detection protocols that ran independently of my control. And again about the marriage itself. When did you stop trusting your wife? The prosecutor asked. When the system flagged her trying to take everything without asking. No malice in my tone. Just clarity. Because in the end, the system didn't just protect my money. It protected me from the person I never thought I'd need protecting from. By the 12th day of the trial, Thomas Weller broke. He took a plea deal, 7 years in federal prison in exchange for full cooperation. His testimony was the final nail in Jenna's case. He detailed everything, the rerouted marketing budgets, the shell accounts, the fake property transactions. Jenna had managed the books, concealed transfers, and ensured the numbers always looked right. She'd learned her precision from me, but used it to defraud instead of defend. Then came the recordings. On one of the tapes, Jenna's voice was unmistakable. Aaron's too wrapped up in his own systems. He'll never check my work accounts. She'd banked on my boundaries, on the respect I'd always given her privacy. She mistook it for weakness. But she forgot, I didn't need to check her work. The system did it for me. Verdict day came with no drama. Guilty on all counts. 12 counts of wire fraud. 8 counts of conspiracy. 2 counts of embezzlement. Her sentencing, 18 years. 2 months later, I sold the house. Net profit, $500,000. I relocated to Norfolk, bought a modest one-story place, no guest rooms. No reminders. I began teaching part-time at Old Dominion University, a course in financial fraud detection. Real cases. Real consequences. I told my students. Trust, but verify. People lie. Systems don't. Jenna sent a few letters from prison. Long reflections, apologies, memories of better days. I never responded. Not out of hate, but because I had already processed the loss. She didn't just steal from our accounts. She dismantled our life with spreadsheets and strategy. 3 years later, my routines are simple. Black coffee, system checks, a quiet drive to work. I pass by Marquette and Allen's new office sometimes, new logo, new staff. But I still remember. 12 families received restitution because one system worked. Because one person chose to follow the numbers instead of the heart. Justice didn't roar. It calculated. Betrayal happens. Theft occurs. But systems endure. And in the end, equations, not emotions, carried the truth.